You made a mistake at work, and now your brain is racing. What do I do next? Did I just lose credibility? Is this going to affect my career? Can I come back from this? Well, before you send that over-explaining email, before you spiral, before you try to disappear and hope it goes away, let's talk about what really determines your career after a mistake. Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. This season, we're taking real life problems that you've given to us, that you voted on, and we're gonna give you practical solutions that you can actually use. I'm calling this season Problem Solution. And today's problem was actually the 5th highest voted problem in our poll that we sent out. And it is, I made a mistake at work. How do I recover, especially when someone is more senior to me? I've made this mistake in front of a more senior person. And so for today, we're gonna talk about that problem, why it's tough for us, and I'm gonna give you a 3-part plan on how you can recover from a mistake. At the end, I'm gonna give you a power move, something to practice this week. And for this season, we're starting a new practice, which is a GRAVITAS Shoutout. Someone or something in our lives that is really making a difference in the world. Well, first, let's talk about the problem. And no one likes talking about making mistakes. You missed a deadline, you sent the wrong number, you forgot something important. By the way, I make mistakes every single day, and suddenly your brain spirals. Well, let me be very clear. Confidence is not about avoiding mistakes because we all make them. It's about how you handle the aftermath. And I think that's a really important point as we dive into how to solve this problem. It's really about the recovery. Why is this so tough for us? Because when we make a mistake, that triggers shame, embarrassment, the fear of losing credibility. I also think we fear how we're being seen. Are we incompetent? And there might be bigger consequences. If you have recently been fired from a job and this is a new job and you've made a mistake, you might catastrophize that, oh my gosh, is this gonna lead me to losing this job? And especially when you make the mistake in front of someone who's intimidating, more senior, who has influence on your career, all of that triggers your inner critic. And one of the 6 forces of your inner critic is called setback spiral. And when you face a setback, a criticism, a mistake, anything, it's easy for that spiral to take over and expound to how you feel about your entire life. So it's not just that I made this mistake, it's I'm a terrible best friend, I'm a terrible partner, I'm a terrible everything, and we spiral out of control. Now, I want you to know something very powerful. No one shows up wanting to be bad at their job. On top of that, no one wants to be a bad boss. And I think that's like one of the biggest myths in the world is that my boss hates me or any of those. I think everyone walks into work with the best of intentions. I want to be good at my job and I have a good boss. Most senior leaders, they care more about accountability, growth, than they do perfection. And in fact, what a boss is watching for is your response, not necessarily the mistake itself. And so I want you to shift your mind frame around mistakes are hard on us because our inner critic lights up. We start to spiral out of control. We think the setback defines every part of us. And I want you to shift to, I'm trying to do the best I can. My boss is a good boss. And it's more about accountability, learning, and growth than it is about perfection. So now what can we do about it? If we've made a mistake, I'm gonna offer you 3 phases that you can go through when a mistake happens. Phase 1, I call internal regulation. This is about you, not anybody else yet. It's about your reframing, your mindset, how you see the problem. So before you email anyone, get in touch with anyone, I want you to take that mistake and I want you to do a quick reflection. It's actually very much related to episode 56, Rewire a Fail. We actually want to take that mistake before anyone else sees it. And we want to ask ourselves, what happened? Why did it happen? What did I miss? What's within my control? And I want you to think about, this is a mistake not your identity. And I think that's the mistake people make, is that they go, okay, this mistake frames my whole identity. That's not true. The mistake is behavior. Your identity is your worth and how you see yourself. And we call that the self-sustaining superpower in our 8 superpowers framework. But I really think it's about, I have value, I am worthy, I'm doing the best I can. This mistake is a behavior. And what you can do is you can say, what did I learn from the mistake? More importantly, the next time this happens, I will ... What will you change about going forward? And this allows you to not focus on the repercussions. It allows you to stay in the facts. So I think phase 1, after you've made a mistake, is internal regulation. This does not define who I am, why I'm valuable, my worth. This is a mistake. Here's what I've learned. Here's what I will do differently. Here are the facts. That is separate from, am I valuable to the effort? Phase 2, and this is very important. Most people, when they make a mistake, I think we all naturally kind of shrink. Like, if you're a kid, you're like, I don't want anyone to see that I've done something wrong. I want you to go outwards. And phase 2, which is very hard for us to do because we want to avoid conflict in life, is you have to address it quickly. You have to get it out of the way. You can't avoid it. You can't ignore it, downplay, blame, over-explain. In fact, someone just went through this and they said, what if I say nothing? Will it just go away? And I said, absolutely not. You have to address it. You have to be clear and concise and contained. Here's a script I want you to use. If you made this mistake in front of your boss, you just say, hey, I want to flag something for you. I missed X, I missed blank. Here's what happened. Here's what I'm doing to fix it. Here's how I prevent it next time. Because senior leaders respect ownership. And if you shy away from it, it means you're not trying to have accountability or ownership. And you have to address it quickly because silence erodes trust more than error. I'm going to say that again. Silence erodes trust more than error. What do I mean by that? Well, all the time we're collecting information about people we work with. And our brain subconsciously starts to create a narrative. Right? You start to have little data points along that frame the narrative of how you see this person. And if someone avoids a mistake or doesn't bring it up, subconsciously it logs, they're not that reliable or they might make mistakes. You can reframe that narrative with that person by simply addressing it directly. If you say, hey, I made a mistake, I want to make sure you're aware of it, all of a sudden that person's narrative is, oh, this person's very honest and straightforward and direct. That's really helpful to me, helpful for me to know that they're trustworthy. And then if you say, and here's what I'm going to do differently. This is a person who takes ownership when things go wrong. I don't have to bring it up to them. They're raising it with me. That also frames a narrative of, this is someone who's a leader. They're taking ownership of their own mistakes and creating a path forward. So phase 2 is really important. You can't avoid it. You got to just get it out of the way and address it. The longer you avoid it, the longer you let it fester, the more it erodes long-term trust with the people you work with. Phase 3, this is the fun part. This is where you can have a plan. And you might call it an improvement plan, but you want to demonstrate that you are growing publicly. So I've made the mistake. You've heard me talk a lot about most improved players are often better than most valuable players. Most improved players are very public about, hey, this is a new process I put in place so that mistake doesn't happen again. Here's the checklist. Here's an added step that I'm doing. Here's a deadline buffer. Here's a peer check. I love having someone else check my work, by the way. That's always really nice. And to be able to signal, hey, after this is what I implemented to make sure it doesn't happen again. That signals maturity and growth. And on top of it, here's the bonus. Here's the extra credit, is if you openly ask for feedback. So another thing I'd like to say is, hey, is there anything I could have done differently that you would give me advice on? Or, hey, is there one thing in addition to the mistake I've made that I should be working on? When you invite feedback and openness, people go, okay, this is someone who's accountable, owns the problem, humble, and hungry. And all of a sudden you've made yourself mentorable. It's not that you're the person that screwed up and made that mistake. You're the person who owns it and wants to grow and is mentorable. The mentor chooses you, you don't choose the mentor. So if you've made a mistake in front of your boss, turn it into a mentorship moment by asking for feedback. The most important part of this, if you haven't gotten it already, is do not shrink. I think that is the greatest downfall when you've made a mistake. Because when you start to shrink, you stop speaking up in meetings, you over-apologize, you overcompensate. And I want you to make sure that throughout this 3 phases, you're in the process of actually reclaiming your voice and taking away the inner critic's power. So you want to keep going and be visible again. As I like to say, when you fall off the bicycle, what's the first thing you do? You get back onto it, because the more you do it, you get to rebuild your confidence through that action. The last thing I'll say about this whole idea of when you've made a mistake is don't beat yourself up. Rumination actually doesn't improve performance. It erodes it. And learning and growth and openness and really not shrinking in this moment, that's actually what will help you get through a mistake, because mistakes are part of growth. And when we have blind spots, that's when we have issues. That's when we start to have avoidance. All right. When you've made a mistake, internally regulate, step 1, phase 1. Phase 2, don't avoid it, address it quickly, get it out of the way. And phase 3, put a plan in place and invite feedback and don't shrink away from it. Those are the 3 things that I really want all of you to do when you've made a mistake. I make mistakes every single day, and I do this as secondhand nature now. Here's my power move for you this week. I want you to go back to episode 56 of the podcast. And if you don't have time to go back to episode 56, it's called Rewire or Fail, then I'm going to give you the exercise from that episode. Here's the thing I want you to do. I want you to take a setback, a mistake, something that you're still carrying, something where you go, I screwed up, and it's still haunting you. And I want you to write down, here's what happened, here's what I learned, and one thing I'm going to do differently. The next time this happens, here's what I will do. And I want you to let it go, because growth requires us to release ourselves from those mistakes. That's your power move for the week. In closing, because this season is all about problem solution and moving through life with a ton of confidence and gravitas and gratitude, we're adding something special. And I hope we continue this, which is we're going to do a gravitas shout out every week to a person, a brand, something that we're really excited about. And the reason is growth deserves to be seen, ownership deserves to be named, and the people doing the work deserve to be celebrated. So at the end of every episode, we're going to recognize people who are out there living what we talked about today or having the guts to just put themselves out there. And today's shout out is going to Josie Martiniello. I hope I said your last name correctly, Josie. Josie sent me a message on LinkedIn, which I'm going to read to you. Hi, Lisa. My husband attended a session you presented at and passed along your book, which I loved. I now follow your podcast. It has been inspirational. Thank you. If you ever come north to Canada, let me know, as I would love to meet you in person. Can't wait to listen to your next podcast. Take care, and please pass along my message to your team. I recommend your podcast to everyone. I just love it. Well, Josie, first of all, I think time is how you spend your love. So thank you for spending your time with us. And secondly, I just love the extra effort it takes to send a message on LinkedIn. And you took the time to pass along your regard, your gratitude. And by the way, that created an amplified joy amongst all of us, our entire team, me. And so you are my gravitas shout out of the week. And I hope you love this season, because this season is really built around you and everyone who listens to our podcast and wanting to make a difference in your life. So I hope you loved today's episode around what to do when you make a mistake. If you felt inspired by this, I hope you share this episode with someone who needs to hear it today. Maybe one of your friends, colleagues made a mistake and you want to just forward this to them so that they have a primer on how to get through it. Subscribe so you never miss a moment of inspiration. Leave us a review. Those reviews are really important in amplifying our work and helping more people discover what we're doing. And until next time, in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.